Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're looking into a case that, frankly, raises some serious questions about accountability.
Yeah, it really does.
We've got allegations of misconduct in a major denomination, a federal investigation, a cover-up.
And then a sentence that seems, well, surprisingly short.
Exactly. And a figure right in the middle of it, Matthew Queen. He was a pretty prominent pastor in the Southern Baptist Convention, the SBC.
That's right. Our listeners send over a bunch of sources on this.
Before we go deeper into the story today, we would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on further stories. Also like and comment your thought.
And our mission today, really, is to quickly unpack the timeline.
Okay.
The context around his legal issues, the charges, that lenient sentence, and maybe most strikingly, his return to ministry just 1 month after finishing his sentence.
1 month. Let that sink in. He served 6 months of home confinement.
For lying to federal agents, mind you. Obstruction.
Yes, regarding misconduct allegations. And a month later, he's back on a pastoral care team counseling people.
Quite the turnaround.
It forces you to ask, how does that happen?
It's a critical question, and I think the answer tells us a lot about institutional priorities.
So let's dig in. To understand the how, we need the who and what first.
Right. We need to place Queen in context.
Yeah.
And to understand the investigation he tried to derail.
Okay, so who was Matthew Queen before all this? He wasn't just some unknown pastor.
Not at all. He was quite established. Pastor of Friendly Avenue Baptist Church in North Carolina.
Okay.
And also a professor at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. So a respected voice,
Yeah.
Within the SBC structure.
Trusted figure, which makes the federal investigation even more significant.
Absolutely. And this federal interest, it didn't just pop up randomly. It came directly out of that huge reckoning in the SBC after the May 2022 Guidepost Solutions Report.
Ah, the Guidepost Report. For listeners maybe not familiar, can you recap why that report prompted such a serious federal look?
Sure. It wasn't just a few isolated incidents. The report uncovered, well, systemic issues.
Systemic how?
Thousands of allegations of sexual abuse, misconduct, spanning decades. And crucially, it pointed to how the SBC leadership had, for a long time, resisted keeping track of offenders.
Like a central database.
Exactly. Which basically allowed abusers, or those facing misconduct claims, to just move to other churches without anyone knowing.
Wow.
So when an organization that large is shown to have systematically failed like that, well, the Department of Justice tends to take notice.
That makes sense. So the DOJ steps in.
Right. Which brings us to November 2022. The DOJ issues a subpoena specifically to Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary.
The seminary where Queen was a professor.
Correct. They demanded records about any reported misconduct involving a student. They were looking into whether the seminary was part of this larger pattern of failure.
Okay, so the feds are knocking. What did Queen do? This is where the crime happens, right?
This is the key part. The sources are very clear. Queen wasn't charged with the underlying misconduct itself.
Okay, not the original issue.
No. His crime was obstruction, a deliberate attempt to sabotage the federal investigation.
How exactly did he obstruct? What did the sources say?
He lied to federal agents, and he falsified records.
Falsified record.
Yeah. When the subpoena demanded specific documents, he apparently created his own notes.
Made stuff up.
Well, notes that were misleading or, untrue, and he handed those over instead of the actual documents the feds were asking for.
So actively trying to cover things up.
Pretty much. Trying to undermine a federal probe into potentially systemic abuse within his institution.
Okay, lying to the FBI, falsifying documents. That sounds incredibly serious. That carries significant prison time usually.
It potentially does. Up to 5 years.
So why would someone like Queen, a respected professor, a pastor, risk that kind of penalty just to protect the seminary?
That really gets to the core issue, doesn't it? Institutional loyalty. The sources suggest it was an attempt to shield the seminary's reputation, maybe how it handled things internally.
Protecting the institution above the law.
It seems like it. When organizations face intense scrutiny, sometimes individuals inside, especially those deeply invested, feel a sort of misplaced duty.
A duty to protect, even if it means breaking the law.
Yeah, exactly. Choosing the institution over transparency, over cooperating with a federal investigation.
So he commits this serious federal crime, avoids scrutiny on the original issue, but steps right into a charge of obstruction.
Correct. Which brings us to the sentencing. March 2025.
Right. Potential for 5 years in prison. But that's not what happened. Why the huge reduction?
Well, this is where the defense strategy really came into play. It shifted from the legal facts to more emotional and character-based arguments.
Okay, how so?
Two main things: his character and his remorse.
And I read about the letters. There were character letters submitted.
A lot of them. Around 59 letters, actually.
59. Wow, who are they from?
Family, naturally, but also former colleagues, other prominent pastors. They essentially flooded the court with support.
Trying to soften the blow of the crime itself? What did these letters actually argue?
Well, first, they painted this as a one-off mistake. Totally out of character for him.
An aberration.
Right. Second, they highlighted his past good work. Specifically, they mentioned he had a history of helping victims of sexual mistreatment in his previous ministry work.
Wait, they used his history of helping victims to argue for leniency on a crime committed to cover up mistreatment allegations.
The irony seems pretty stark, doesn't it? But yes, that was presented as a mitigating factor, his supposed good character.
That's quite a strategy. Did they focus on his emotional state, too?
Oh, heavily. That's often very effective, especially with public figures.
Oh, so?
The defense claimed he felt such intense guilt, such distress over his actions, that he'd even considered ending himself.
Wow. That really shifts the focus.
It does. Away from the original potential victims,
Right.
away from the damage to the investigation.
And onto the defendant's suffering.
Exactly. It's a tactic to evoke sympathy, to push for mercy from the judge.
And clearly it had an impact.
A significant one, instead of prison time.
He got home confinement.
6 months. With an electronic monitor. Could only leave for medical reasons, basically, or with permission.
6 months at home, compared to 5 years in prison for lying to the FBI.
It was seen as exceptionally lenient by many. There was immediate backlash about accountability or the lack thereof.
So he serves that sentence March to September 2025, and then the timeline we started with.
That's right. The clock ticks over into October 2025.
Just 1 month after the home confinement ends.
And Matthew Queen is back in a ministry role.
It's just, the speed is incredible. Where did he end up? What's the new role?
He's now listed at Plymouth Park Baptist Church in Irvine, Texas.
Okay. And his role there?
Member of the pastoral care team.
Pastoral care, so actively counseling church members.
Presumably, yes. That's what pastoral care involves. Helping people through crises, offering spiritual guidance.
Weeks after finishing a sentence for obstruction related to covering up misconduct, the disconnect is jarring.
It is. And perhaps adding to that, when the sources contacted the new church, Plymouth Park.
Did they comment? Explain the decision.
No reply. Silence.
Which just seems to feed into that larger pattern, doesn't it?
What pattern is that?
The one we hear about sometimes. Pastors disciplined or fired, maybe even convicted.
And they just reappear somewhere else.
Exactly. Bounce around, maybe move states. And the new congregation often has no idea about their history. Why is there such a lack of transparency?
Well, it points to a systemic issue, I think. Institutions often prioritize protecting their own reputation.
Image management over openness.
You could say that. When a pastor leaves under a cloud, the previous congregation might be kept in the dark. The new one might not know, or, maybe worse, might choose not to look too closely.
Especially if there's no central mandatory way to track this stuff across independent churches.
Precisely. The history isn't easily found, or maybe it's deliberately overlooked if the church feels the pastor has talent they want to use.
So if the institutions aren't policing themselves effectively, it really falls to the individual churchgoer, to you, the listener.
It really does. Knowledge becomes power in that situation.
How so?
If people know that a leader served time for lying to the DOJ about abuse allegations, they can decide for themselves.
Decide if that leader and the church that hired him so quickly aligns with their own values.
Exactly. Values around transparency, accountability, safety. Information allows for informed choices.
Okay, let's try to synthesize this. Pull the threads together. What's the big picture here?
Well, you have this backdrop of systemic failure in a major denomination, exposed by guideposts.
Leading to a federal investigation.
Right. Then a prominent figure, Queen, commits a serious crime obstruction trying to protect that institution.
Gets a remarkably light sentence, 6 months home confinement.
Largely due to character references, remember?
Yes, and then almost immediately he's back in a leadership role, counseling others.
The contrast is just stark.
It really is.
And it's fascinating, isn't it? The
Yeah.
very institutional support system, those 59 letters praising his character that helped reduce his sentence. That system seems intertwined with the loyalty that perhaps led to the crime in the first place. It highlights why knowing these details matters when you're assessing leadership anywhere.
When protecting reputation overrides transparency and justice.
That seems to be the outcome here. Someone who obstructed a federal investigation is back, providing pastoral care within weeks.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener, to consider.
Yeah.
Queen's sentence was significantly reduced based on evidence of his good character, including his past work helping victims. But the crime itself was obstructing an investigation into the mistreatment of victims.
Right, the core contradiction.
So what does this case really tell us about the conflict between institutional loyalty, personal reputation, and genuine accountability, especially when past good deeds are used to mitigate a serious crime aimed at protecting institutional secrets?
How do we weigh those things? Past actions versus a recent significant transgression designed to obstruct justice.
Something to think about as you evaluate leadership and accountability wherever you encounter it.